So we're messing around on the Toyota again. What we got going on right now, as mentioned in the other video, making this double shear. This is not going to be the strongest thing in the world, but what it will do is similar to what I did on my Toyota, which I may or may not be able to find a picture of it. But on my Toyota, I made, sorry, this is my Toyota. On my Toyota axle, I made a piece that went down and connected to the steering stop on it when I had a Toyota axle under the same truck. And what that did was these bolts on that would always loosen on each side, and I did that, and then I never had to tighten them again. This setup has not had an issue. I think the Hydro Assist takes care of that. But on the Toyota axle setup, both the tie rod and the drag link were on the steering arms that were bolted into the closed knuckles. So this, with the cast or forged piece, whatever it is, isn't an issue. But so what I've done so far, this is raised up because this was kind of having some resistance because I have the wheels slightly turned. But I've got two little squares, one little piece. It's going to have to be kind of Z'd over. And before I finish templating this piece, I think I'm going to cut these pieces out because this is going to have to be shorter because of the thickness. I might have to get a longer bolt up here just because I've cut it a little short for the application potentially. But we're going to have that in there. And then there's going to be another piece, at least one behind it to kind of give it some support. And again, it's just to take some stress off of this because I feel like that has a decent amount of leverage on it. Not worried about double shearing this at all because the steering ram is taking a lot of the load on there. So not really concerned about that, just concerned about that. So also having these two tied together will probably make this whole thing more rigid anyway. So let's cut some metal. Alright, so things drilled out, my crappy drill press and my deadly looking other drill. As expected, this bolt is going to be too short with the lock washer, which I'm going to use. So I have a longer one here, but it's only not graded at all. So not actually going to run that, but I'm probably going to take it to a hardware store as a reference. It actually needs to, preferably would be a tiny bit shorter than that, but that would work. So I've got this piece which is too long, as expected, but the angle looks about right. And what I've done, these angled pieces that I didn't think of enough when I was cutting this material out of the scrap will be gone, and then these will be where they actually capture these nuts so that they don't want to spin. And then it's just kind of like a one-tool operation to put this together. Everything's going to be kind of tight anyway, but this actually might not have to be trimmed a whole lot by the time that's all done. So I came up with a little trick here. I decided that I was pretty okay with that angle. With this angle, I mean, you can even see it in the cardboard stuff here. This angle was not that right. So what I did, took the old trusty tri-square, say that fast, and I set it to about the corner there and just ran it across. Had to flip it around, and now we should be parallel. It was a little long on this corner anyway, so this should work out. So we got it all cut. Everything's good enough for now. And then when I feel like using the grinder, which makes a big mess, I can fine tune everything, just shave these down a tiny bit more, all that stuff. And then when we get it tacked into place, then we can make a template for the piece that's going to go on the back. While I'm marinating on some ideas on this side, I'm getting started on some templating for this side. Wanted to show a thing I do to cut these holes that I did on these. I actually use a step bit because I didn't know my real bit, and kind of just drill it through. This I'm just going to cut with a razor, but we'll show that. Gotta watch your fingies. I'm just going to go both sides too because it gets that little burr off of there. It's going to make a little cardboard dust, but that's fine. And I know I need to go up to 1/2 inch, which I should have marked, but I didn't. And I'm there. Good enough. And you may be asking, now Dave, where did you get this pattern? Well, I got it from there. An extra one of these thingies. There's like a little sprinkle dangle that pushes down on a bushing thingy, which holds the knuckle onto the kingpin in there. Dana 60 stuff. And just like that, we're in the zone. Whoop. I'm going to cut this straight. Probably just leave the sides pretty straight. And then I'm going to give it some grinder treatment and stuff. Now, where this ends on the final piece may not be there, but just as a baseline, I'll make it, I don't know. Maybe I'll just start with some extra, cut it down, and I'm going to be like taping on some other pieces because whatever it goes on here, I was going to have to like, kind of like angle down and whatever. And I might have to get me some bigger grade 8 bolts or whatever there. Studs like the other side would be more ideal, but that's what I've got, so. Or that's, I don't know. We'll see what I can get. So fast forward a little, we're going to be doing some cutting and grinding here pretty soon. But got this apart so that I could kind of mock it up. There's going to be some action on at least one of the sides. And obviously we're not going to leave these sharp. But yeah, now I can trace this out onto some metal I have laying around and kind of see what I need to do. I might break it off into like spots and weld these instead of like bending them. I don't have like a brake to bend thick metal, but you know, we'll do something. You'll see. Alright, so I'm pretty stoked on this. This is like 3/8. This drill that I literally saved from the garbage. I had an old boss throw it away because he said it like hurt him. Well, you just gotta harness the power. I don't know how old it is, but it was free for me. But look at this. 2.5 inch hole saw on a Kingpin Dana 60. It works. And my templating was good. So I am stoked. Like worst case scenario, I might have to tune up some of those holes just a little bit. But this thing sits, you know, down like it should. I guess the way this bevels down here, I will have to chamfer that out a little, but kind of expected that. And then, yeah, this part's pretty basic because that just goes like so. And then, yeah, this will all just be welded together, obviously smoothed out with a grinder because it's just kind of cut for now. But I might do a series of speed holes on it, but I'm gonna get that chamfered out, get it kind of mocked up, then decide what kind of speed holes I want. And then once this is tacked together, then I can decide what kind of side reinforcement I want. So fast forward a bunch, I decided, like I was talking about earlier, to make this go to that other hole. And I'm using a smaller bolt back there because these were originally tapered. It's been drilled out to run these larger bolts. And that's just kind of how that side's going to be. That washer, I was just checking it out. I thought about doing some kind of double shear thing up here too, but As pointed out earlier, we have Hydro Assist. There's not much on there, but I'm going to be having a washer on there, so if anything happened to that heim joint, it's not just going to like pop off and have no steering, which it probably can't. But I've had other ones where there was like a pressed in fitting where somebody had one and it came loose. There'll be a little tuning up of sharp edges before this goes back on. It's just kind of MIG tacked together, but I do plan on TIG welding all this. Got a nice speed hole there. So I don't love that over there, but with the steering arm I have and being on a budget and not having to redo the drag link and everything for the style where people buy somewhere, this kind of offsets over that double shears and they do all kinds of better stuff. But I have what I have. I don't want to spend a ton of money on it. Over here, got this all together. I'm probably going to round those corners a little more. This is a little hammered up because I'd use whatever I can get my hands on to try to contour that in. And then in a perfect world, I would have made that more straight, but I kind of realized that, and then that it was that way, and then, you know, I just made it work. Debating whether or not there'll be a piece on this side. Haven't decided, but it's probably going to be strong enough with just the one side. So, a little hot in a few spots. My TIG welding's not perfect. Those TIG welding keyboard warriors out there, just people that really know about TIG welding, know that I'm not feeding the filler rod the best, but you know, it's all a work in progress. Anyhow, I noticed on one of my MIG welds that I tacked this together with, there's a crack. So that's getting ground out because I don't want any cracks on this. I want it to be super strong, even though it's just a supplementary piece. There they are mocked up. Got this one chilling. The speed hole looks good. I thought about putting another plate over here, but one of the reasons I'm not doing that is I feel like it's going to be really nice. That's going to be a longer bolt, by the way. Yeah. And that's a temporary bolt. But I feel like it's going to be really nice to, at a glance, be able to see that these nuts are all the way on there. So, you know. And over here, gotta get longer ones of those. There's the springy dinghy. I got the empty cap sitting on there now. Everything's very precise. This goes together like butter. And as precise as you're ever gonna get for what we're working with. If you want to critique my welds, what you can see here is that there are definitely some contaminants. Considering that this metal was saved from literally going into a dumpster, not even a recycling dumpster, and it was covered in oil before I worked on it, I would say it worked out pretty good. I could have cleaned a little better, but as you can see, when I tried to, like, after I got the old paint off, there is some weird pitting on the metal, and I kind of did the best I could without making it look terrible. But yeah, is it better look in the light? Yeah, figures the best welds on the whole thing won't be visible. Not bad for free metal though. Garbage metal. So one thing I'm doing before putting this all back together is I'm going to clean up the tie rods. So got those removed. All right, all prepped up. Time to throw some paint on these. So here it is, thrown together. Went a little longer than I needed on that bolt, but the other one was cut too short, so here we are. Didn't use the other one on the steering, didn't use the other one on the pitman arm. I'll show you why in a second. Got this washer here in case there was some kind of freak incident where this Heim came apart. I'm still gonna have steering. Again, there's a hydraulic ram there to assist, so you know, there's not as much load on that anyway, because, you know, down here. Again, I did decide to put the extra bit back there from this bracket. Ended up not using my original tab here because these aren't directly in line, and I feel like there could be, you know, any kind of twisty action will be compensated by that. That's only like a grade 5, but I think it's plenty. Grade 8 on the main ones. These, I just got bolts that were, you know, same as those, except long enough to compensate for the extra thickness of the material. And that's all dialed now. Threw some of this stuff on the Heim joints and also lubricated the bolts where they go inside the misalignment spacers. These ones in particular were kind of sticky, but I probably have them over tightened, or have over tightened them. I don't know, I just tighten them. And then these ones sit kind of at an angle on each side so that the hydraulic ram doesn't move too much. In hindsight, I really should have just like chopped them down so I could make the tie rod sit lower and control the movement that way and limit it that way. But, you know, I already have that on there. I already have the ram on there. Everything works, and it does sit a little higher. So that's why we're at where we're at. The bolt's like almost flush with the bottom of that nut, so good enough. I'll keep a spare bolt around. Got the washer. Didn't paint this cap very well, but you know, it's gonna have grease on it. So there it is. Great peace of mind. Tie rods look better. I'm probably gonna deal with this notch at some point, but I just need to go out and enjoy it pretty soon. So yeah.